Hello, I'm your host, Zach Schreiber, and I'm real excited for today's episode. I have Tyler Irons here. He is the founder of VRLY. He's an entrepreneur, he's a hustler, and in today's show, we're gonna be talking about virtual reality and some digital marketing. But without further ado, I'll give you Tyler. Tyler, go ahead. Explain a little bit about yourself, your background, and how you founded VRLY.
Yeah, for sure. Thanks for having me, Zach. I appreciate that.
Absolutely.
Yeah, so if we just hop right into it. VRLY's background, we actually grew out of a marketing company called Rep First. So our background is marketing. Mm-hmm. So we got into VRLY from more of the marketing standpoint. We actually had one of our clients who was a real estate agent reach out to us and say, hey, what can we do different to kind of differentiate ourselves in the market? Mm-hmm. And, our team got to work on creating what we now call a VRLY. Mm-hmm. So that all started with, integrating the latest technology and then using, that rich content from things like drone, 3D virtual tours and scans like that, and then being able to take that rich content and then monetizing it across digital marketing.
Right. So you guys, from my understanding, you were founded in 2016.
Correct.
What were some of the tools or services you provided that gave you a leg up on the competition?
Yeah. So one of the biggest things we got into right away was the actual virtual tours. Mm-hmm. So being able to scan an existing space and then taking that virtual rendering to the actual buyers and helping agents take, a 3D space and showing buyers without actually having to go to the home exactly what the home looks like, be able to walk through the floor plan, experience it, mm-hmm. and actually you can zoom out and see an actual 3D dollhouse model of the whole home.
And what were some of the ways back in 2016 that you're pushing out this content? What kind of challenges did you face working with agents and trying to onboard them to your platform?
Yeah, so for sure, there's definitely challenges when we first launched. One of the biggest challenges was the turnaround time on the product because homes were selling so fast in 2016. And not that they don't sell quick now, but it was literally, a house would go up and within 24 hours, the offers were received, the deal was closed, and the agent was like, hey, I don't need anything. So we had to create a very skilled production team that could keep up with that demand, and be able to turn projects around by the next day. So that was one of the biggest challenges we faced.
Yeah. So I understand that you guys use a Matterport camera. Could you explain to the audience what the Matterport camera does and how long a scan would take to do, let's say, a 1,500 square foot range plan, no basement?
Right. So a Matterport camera is a 3D camera that you actually take into a home, and it does a virtual scan where you actually have 3 degrees of freedom. So 3 degrees of freedom is where you can look up, you can look down, you can look left, you can look right, and you can turn around. So you are actually looking from that view of where the camera sat, mm-hmm. but you have control over what you look at. So you control the screen, whether it's the iPhone, a desktop computer, an iPad, or a VR headset, you control where you're actually looking. So you go in, it does a 3D retina red scan of the room, and then we actually take all those scans and stitch them together. So you have a full, complete view of the house.
Yeah. So now I can access this virtual tour from a tablet, from my iPhone, from a desktop computer, and I can click and point and go throughout the house. And so basically when I go to your website, getvrly.com, the first thing I see is make every day an open house. Right. How is that important for a real estate agent?
Yeah, so it actually saves agents a lot of time because they're not going to their listings to open the door to unlock it, show buyers houses that they're not even interested in. Because most buyers know right away if they even want to go and look at that house by just seeing the floor plan from a virtual tour. So within the first couple minutes, they'll know if they even want to actually go over there, go tour that house. So instead of going to 19 houses in a day or two, all of a sudden you're going to 3 or 4 that the buyer actually wants to see right away.
Right. So let's backtrack. In 2016, the only thing that agents were probably doing at this time was putting up 36 photos on Zillow. So people were just looking at the photos and it could have been perceived maybe not that great of a house, and they wasted the time going and walking the house when they could have booked it online and accessed everything through your website.
Correct.
Yeah, that's absolutely fascinating.
Yeah.
So now let's fast forward to 2020. What are some of the new virtual reality tools that you're using that have kind of taken off the last few years?
Yeah. So we've integrated a lot of things into what we call a VRLY, which now will include drone. So every house will have drone on it, so you can actually see not only the house and the lot, but you can actually see the neighborhood as well. We always panel the neighborhood, so you get a good feel for where it's at, the location, what's around, the street, everything from what are the size of the trees, does it have trees, is it new, is it is it still being built around? So things like that are important to the actual buyer. We include photos on every listing, obviously, which is a must for the MLS for every agent. So those are included. We also build out marketing videos. So every home has an actual marketing video that we then take and build a social media campaign around. So that's actually, we actually use target demographics to run that ad to potential buyers and potential sellers who maybe haven't found an agent yet, so that they can see how agents differentiate themselves. So that's a big part. And then the last part we do is we actually create a unique landing page for each listing. So when the buyers are watching that video on social media, they actually are landing on a landing page specifically for that house, for that agent, and it can lead capture as well.
Yeah. I mean, as an agent, I have experience. I don't have time to handle the social media myself. It's always nice to have a partner who understands how to push out this content and reach and maximize based on my price point, understands the demographics. So that's really cool how you guys did that. We were talking before, you've been partnering up with some larger brokerages, not just in Nebraska, but all throughout the U.S. Kind of explain what you're doing and some of the new things with technology that you're presenting to these brokerages.
Yeah, so a big part of what we're doing with these, mega teams and brokerages is bringing VRLY to them in their local markets. So there's a massive need for, what we do. So we're partnering with bigger agencies, brokerages, and mega agencies to actually take these scans, take the drones, take the 3D, the renderings, take the back-end websites, and taking all those packages to them and their teams. So they're now partnering with us to create essentially an ancillary within their brokerage or their mega team, and now they will have VRLY to offer to their agents in their marketplace.
Yeah, that sounds amazing. Yeah. I mean, as a business owner too, not only are you get the chance to travel and you're just constantly learning every day.
Right, exactly.
But I see you brought a headset with us today. Can you explain what that does and how you're taking these to brokerages and kind of the tours that a potential homeowner can see using these?
Right. So a big play that we've done this year and at the end of last year was we're pushing, again, with our brokerage and our mega agency partners, is helping them bridge that gap to virtual reality, right? So virtual reality has a lot of uses, and it's kind of twofold. One, they're now having their agents take VR headsets to their listing appointments to actually show those potential, sellers how much different the Matterport is in the VR headset and the capabilities with the technology that they're gapping, because it gives them a huge advantage over their competition when they can say, hey, put this on, this is how I'm going to showcase your house. And it's something tangible that, a buyer or a seller can actually utilize, right? So as you know, as an agent, commission rates are under massive pressure, right? Because everybody's trying to undercut everybody. So this is something that's actually tangible that helps those listing agents go to listing and say, well, here's a value add that I have that someone else doesn't. So it helps them, compete against those people that want, lower commission rates. It's something they can show their friends and family that's tangible and that they feel like they're getting that value add. So this is why I went with this agent or this brokerage over someone who was maybe cheaper.
Right. No, that sounds amazing. Yeah. We talked a lot about agents, but who else is kind of using this platform?
Yeah. So the other big part of what we do is home builders. So we're actually doing a big push with VR with home builders and helping them create actual CAD designs of the home before it's built. So imagine you're gonna go build a $500,000, $1 million, $2 million, $5 million house. You might have some trepidations about, getting that done, how it's going to look, how it's going to feel. Is it the layout right? Because once you start, it's hard to make changes. So what we do is we actually build out the 3D rendering, and then we let the actual not the builder, but the client come in and put on a VR headset and walk their house in 6 degrees of freedom. So when I say 6 degrees of freedom, we talked about 3 degrees earlier. 6 degrees is the same thing. You can look up, you can look down, left, right, turn around, but now you can actually walk. You can physically move your body, and you can take steps, you can kneel down, you can look up, and you have the free range of your house before it's built. So we actually add in, all the finishes. So if you have, a wood paneling, you can see what that'll look like before the house is done. If you have specific wallpaper, countertops, all of that can be built into the rendering. So now you can actually see what your house will look like when it's finished with your stuff, with your couch, with your, all your little details that are important. you can now see that and put it on in VR and have 6 degrees of freedom.
Yeah, that's awesome. I'm going to backtrack a little bit. We were talking about the home builders and potentially using that floor plan. It just got my mind thinking. The issue I work with a home builder, Trademark Builders. You've worked with him too.
Right.
It's nice 6 months later down the road, that house is already filled. We can't go back and tour because we have someone else living in it. It's just nice to have that material where you can go and showcase a home. What other tools can a home builder use it for?
Yeah, so definitely. So it has a lot of applications for home builders. So like you said, one is going back and creating a portfolio, especially if you're a custom home builder where every floor plan is different. It's vital that you can showcase your previous work without having to rely on a previous client to unlock a door and let you in. So that's obviously a major selling point. But the other big side that we see a lot of builders like is that we actually go in and we do a 3D virtual scan before the drywall goes up. Mm-hmm. So you can see the plumbing, the electrical, you can see through the walls. So if you ever did have to cut into a wall, you ever had to make a change, or you wanted, for whatever reason had to see what was behind a wall, you have that available to you. So that's been a big value add that a lot of,
home builders and developers, because this could go into huge developments, commercial properties. So that's pretty interesting.
Yep. So that's been a really big application for us.
Mm-hmm. So let's go back to that 6 degrees of freedom. Okay. What else is kind of fascinating? How do you kind of see that growing in tech, and how VRLY might be able to provide a new service?
Yeah, so definitely. So the 6 degrees of freedom is just a game changer. It's really on the beginning edge of what we can do with it and what we will do, just as an industry as a whole. But we've seen brokerages now. What we're doing is we're going in and setting up actual VR studios mm-hmm. for them in their office, because it allows them to offer a better experience to their builder clients and their customers. So we're actually going around the country and we're setting up these actual VR studios inside of brokerages and mega teams so that they can take this technology to them.
So those studios, about how big, how much space do you need to have a studio?
Yeah, you don't need a lot of space. A 6x6 works, and anything larger than that obviously works as well. So mm-hmm. you can adjust to whatever space they have, as long as they have a 6x6 area that they can dedicate to just a VR setup.
Mm-hmm. So now that you're setting up these new studios with the larger brokerages, what are some of the new value adds, and what does the new standard VRLY package look like?
Yeah, so a VRLY package is going to include, your basic photography, your HDR standard photography. It's going to include your drone. It's going to include your landing page for the listing. It's going to include your video that we create and the marketing campaign. So it's kind of those 5 features that are in a standard VRLY package. So the other thing that allows agents to do a lot is be a lot more competitive when they go to those listing appointments, because as like 15 years ago, the MLS was so powerful that that had a lot of leverage when you'd go tell a seller like, hey, I can put this on the MLS, because they mm-hmm. couldn't do it themselves. Well, now we have Zillow, realtor.com, all those places who have created their own MLS that they do offer the FSBO to be able to go list their own home. So how do we compete against that is, we have to start using technology to, again, get that leverage over those FSBOs and people that think they can just go out and list it themselves. Right.
You bring up a good point. The life cycle of how MLS has kind of worked throughout the last couple decades. So before, it was basically a real estate agent needed the MLS to kind of leverage themselves to get that listing out and have more exposure. Then brokerages got smarter. They started creating their own website so they can house and create lead gen from that source. Then you have online brokerages like the Redfin, the Zillow, that have kind of came in and they're collecting that data. So now agents are kind of thinking, well, how can we get that leverage back? And that's where VRLY has come in and provided virtual reality, digital marketing platform, so that way that they can create the lead gen. Because at the end of the day, this may not sell your house, but you can win more listings. Talk about what other tools that you provide that allows agents to win more listings.
Yeah, so essentially VRLY package is not built to sell houses like you just said. It is all about our job at VRLY is to sell agents, to help them win those listings. So when they go to those listing appointments, they have the leverage they need to make sure that they differentiate themselves in the market. So again, it's just those key factors that we've touched on earlier. Mm-hmm. That's how you're going to get that advantage and be able to differentiate yourself.
Yeah, when you onboard agents or these new brokerages, these powerhouse teams, what can they expect for turnaround time for, because we're not going to sell the listing today necessarily, but how can they leverage themselves, and what kind of time frame can they expect to see results and have some sort of ROI from your packages?
Yeah, so they'll see results right away because we're hitting those target demographics on those ad campaigns, and on the mega teams and the brokerages, they're a lot more strategic when they're launching their VRLYs. They're not in a rush. They're not, they don't, they've prepped the client a lot better to say, hey, we're going to launch this, maybe in a week or a week and a half, because we want to make sure we have everything done. We want to make sure we have the best campaigns built out that we can. So they've done a good job of actually, pacing themselves a little bit to run better campaigns, to give more time, to be a little bit more strategic on how they launch those. So their ROI is immediate. I mean, they'll start to reach, potential sellers right away, and buyers. But imagine if you go to imagine who knows you're going to sell your house first, right? So it's Google and it's Facebook. It's not your mom, it's not your sister, it's not your brother.
Exactly.
It's Google and it's Facebook, because the first thing you're going to do when you're thinking about buying a house or selling a house is you're going to Google something that's relevant to that. And it's all of a sudden, Google and Facebook are going to then take that data and make it available to marketers, right? So you have to know how to tap into that database to utilize that information and run those ads. So that's the biggest value add you can do, is you're going to all of a sudden take this drone technology, these cutting edge videos, these 3D scans, and you're going to put these videos and these ads right in front of sellers who haven't even told their parents yet that they're thinking about moving. So that's really the biggest advantage you have with a VRLY.
Right. No, that makes perfect sense. And that's awesome that you guys are doing that. What are, so now that you're collecting, well, I guess you're not collecting data, but is there a play in that in the future where you think, or how are you housing this technology so that people are driving traffic to that agent's website or to that brokerage?
Right. So there's actually, we do collect data. We pixel our landing pages. So each landing page has pixels on it where we can capture the data of anyone who's come and was interested in that house. So we are creating our own database. And then we tap into that database as well to help our agent partners, leverage against that.
Well, Tyler, I appreciate you coming on the show. It's been an absolute honor. Tell the people where they can find you, how they can find VRLY, and how they can reach you.
Yeah, well, thank you for having me. I really appreciate it. So if you want to learn more about VRLY, just go to getvrly.com, GETVRLY.com. And that's the best way to get a hold of us.
Well, there you have it, folks. Thanks for tuning in. You can find me on Instagram, Facebook, at Zach Schreiber Realty, and be sure to subscribe, whether it's Spotify or Apple Music. Thanks again.